And David is one of those people that it would just be wonderful to talk to get the true perspective. I'm delighted that Mandy is able to dedicate this evening's shiur on the Chesed reset in his memory.
Thank you. So it's really very exciting, in fact, to see everyone here, particularly people on camera, because I haven't seen you for ages. So it's just lovely. If I haven't said hello to you personally, I'm very happy that you're here, and I will replay the recording so that I can exactly check who turned up and who was listening. Anyway, as Jeremy mentioned, I like participation. I am not capable of talking for half an hour without people joining in. So if I ask a question, it's almost always not rhetorical. I really want someone to think about it and answer. We said that tonight's shiur is dedicated to L'ilui Nishmat, so that my dad's soul should have an aliyah. And normally on a yahrzeit we would say Kaddish, and we're unable to do that today. And the other alternative thing we can do is to learn in his memory. And in fact, this is the 5th yahrzeit shiur that I have given. Some of you have been to all of them. I may begin to repeat myself, but I figure if I don't remember what I said, then chances are you don't either. My father passed away on the 4th of Sivan, which was Erev Shabbat, and the day after Shabbat was Shavuot. So there's always a link, or there's generally a link to Shavuot, or to the things we're about to do on Shavuot in the yahrzeit shiur. This time I've taken as my theme Chesed, so I'd just like to speak for 2 minutes on the Chesed that I associate with my father. So we're going to come to discuss what does Chesed mean, and it's normally translated to loving kindness or something of that sort, and it's interpreted in various ways. But I just want to give 2 examples, one which I've been thinking about quite a lot. Obviously, we're living in really odd and peculiar and strange times. And one of the things that's happened is we've become able to do chesed very quickly for people. So I'm on a gift group and they post, can anyone pick up something from Warm and Freed and deliver it to someone in Golders Green? And they post it, and then within 90 seconds, someone has replied, they can do it, right? We can do that kind of chesed. That kind of chesed gets done really, really quickly. And the truth is, if you want something done, there's someone who will spend a quarter of an hour doing it for you. So the chesed I want to talk about with respect to my father was a slightly different thing. When I was about 1 and Rochelle was about 7, her primary school was in terrible difficulties, dire straits, and nearly closed. And my father stepped up as an accountant to help to put it on a safe and secure financial footing. And they said how easy it is for us to volunteer for 15 minutes. I think he did it for over 35 years. I think he was the financial rep and later chairman of the board for my entire childhood, so starting from when I was 1 till well after I was married and had children. That is an incredible commitment, and that is a chesed. I was reading recently about the eulogy values and the CV values, and that's not necessarily something people talk about, but to give continuously to the same organization for many, many years was a very generous and very highly valued thing that he did. And the second thing is he valued very much being a mentor in his workplace. And it was we see today when there's sometimes a lack of mentoring and a lack of guidance, that it's a crucial part of people's development and education, but it's something that's overlooked. You don't win prizes for mentoring, but he was able to look around and say, these were the people that he schooled, and we had people coming up to us and saying, yeah, we were educated by him. And that was also another very generous and very kind and selfless act, and it helped people to grow. And that will come up again in what I'm talking about. Before I start on the shiur proper, just like to do a small shout out to Jeremy for doing all that he does and for helping me and making this happen in a Zoom way, because I'm not that competent, but really all that he's done and the work that he puts in to keep things going and make it all happen and make sure everyone somehow has their voice heard and feels looked after. So thank you very much to Jeremy. Okay, we shall start. Yay. So the book of Ruth. Oh, look, you've got a thumbs up, Jeremy. Yay, somebody likes it. Anyway, I forgot. Right, those little responses, they're like, no, they're like drugs, right? They're just like massive reinforcers. So it's like having a puppy and you're like, yay, woo, Karen gave me another. Hey, excellent. Okay, so don't do that because I'll be completely distracted and won't get on with my things. Okay, we're going to start with source one. If you're going to post source one, please. Source one asks a question. Source one asks a question. Why do we have the book of Ruth? Now, I have asked the question before, why do we read the book of Ruth on Shavuot? But this is a different question. In fact, I used the same source, to be honest, but never mind. Needs must. Do you want to be able to see it? I can see it. Yes, I want to be able to see it. Yeah. Okay, so why do we ask this question? We ask this question in the Midrash on Ruth directly. Why do we ask this question is a good thing. Do we normally ask, why do we have this particular book or that particular book? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah. We sometimes do. It's not an unreasonable question. I'm going to go straight to the middle of this source. I've got it in the Hebrew and the English, but for our purposes, I think we can go just with the English. Rabbi Zara says, right in the middle of the source, this scroll, this Megillah, does not have anything in it concerned with impurity or purity, nor what is forbidden or what is permitted. So why is it written? Okay, that has a basic assumption. There is a very basic assumption to that all the texts that we have should concern themselves with purity or impurity or forbidden and permitted. Is that true? I can think of lots of books that don't have purity or impurity or forbidden or permitted. If everyone's muted, they can't answer me. Can someone unmute themselves and tell me examples of books that don't have anything to do with purity or impurity or forbidden or permitted? Ashley.
Okay, I've unmuted, but I haven't thought of one yet, sorry.
Oh, okay. Javi. Esther, right? It's not about forbidden or permitted. In fact, the other way around. It even sounds like Esther talks about someone marrying someone who's not Jewish. That it starts from a forbidden basis. It's not Tuman Tahara. Okay. We have lots of books which are about our history, our story. All the books of Yehoshua, Shoftim, Malachim, they're nothing to do with purity or impurity. But they are to do with the history of the Jewish people. So why is Ruth not like that? Why is Ruth not about the history of the Jewish people? Someone speaking?
It's not a national history. This is a personal story of two people who weren't even leading the whole nation.
This is a personal story. What's it doing here? Right? We've set it up. That's an excellent question. Right? Now we know that's a real question. This is just someone's story. Why is it here? It doesn't have anything from in it. It doesn't have anything that we would normally associate with Judaism. So what's it doing here? It seems like it is just someone's biography. And Ruth, at that, was not even Jewish when she started, right? So what is this doing here? So it answers. So why is it written? To teach us the greatness of the reward for acts of loving kindness. Okay. Why is this a book about the reward for the acts of loving kindness? That's what we talked about, I think, in 2017. The end result is King David. That seems like indeed a fair reward. Okay. Why is this a book about the acts of loving kindness? Because it quotes already from the 8th verse in chapter 1. Yaseh Hashem imachem chesed, as you did with the dead and with me. That's what Naomi says to Ruth when she's trying to tell her to go away. God should do kindness with you just as you did with the people that died and with me. Every everything, the whole story is a reward for kindness that Ruth displays. Okay, on the very straightforward level, okay, we've got no problem with that. Do we have a problem with that? We don't. Okay, but we're going to go further, and we're going to go straight into, before we go into step 2, do we have an idea of the basic outline of the story? The story starts with great trauma and distress. Anyone want to fill us in on the very basic outline of the story? I'm going to have to pick on someone if you don't. Someone unmuted?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Barry.
There was a famine in the land.
Yes.
And the family had to leave. And here already, I don't agree that it's got nothing to do with halachic questions, because there is a halachic question there already. I mean,
okay.
The husband was one of the leaders of Israel, one of the judges, and he just walked out because there was a problem. I wonder what his halachic position was on that.
Okay.
And all through the book, there are issues which are raised which seem to me to be full of halachic problems. But just to answer the question that you put there, that was the start of the trauma of the whole story, that these people had to flee from Israel, from Bethlehem.
Excellent. So in fact, we have 5 points of trauma in the story, I think, to start with. 1, there's a famine. 2, they end up going to Moab, which is not a friendly country, it's an enemy territory. 3, Elimelech dies. And then Machlon and Chilion, 2 sons, also die. So that's 4 and 5. So we start off with 5 levels of trauma. 5 levels of trauma and distress. It gets so bad for Naomi that she doesn't even want to be known by her name anymore. She wants to start all over again, but she sees her start as fated to be disastrous. She says there's no hope for her future at all. We're going to come back to, but we remember at this point that Ruth protests and said, I must come with you. I'm going to stick to you, and I'm going to be with you all the way along. We're going to come back to that discussion because it's absolutely key. They end up back in Bethlehem, and Ruth has gone out to the fields to pick up the dropped barley from Boaz's field. And Boaz suddenly shows her extraordinary attention, and she says, why are you paying me so much attention? Why are you being so kind to me? So we're now at chapter 2, verse 11. And Boaz replies to her, and I'm going to read this in the Hebrew because of what I really, really want is for you to hear this. Vaya'an Boaz, vayomer la, hugad li, kol asher asit et chamotech, acharei mot ishech, ותעזבי אביך ואמך, וארץ מולדתך, ותלכי אל עם אשר לא ידעת תמול שלשום. So Boaz answered her, and he said, I have been surely told all that you did for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, that you left your father and your mother and the land of your birth, and you went to a people that you didn't know before. Okay, this is a pivotal moment in the tragedies of Ruth and Naomi, because from this point onward, things really start to look up. She has been recognized, she has been acknowledged, and from here on in, Boaz makes an effort to look after her. Okay, excellent. But also, that is a pasuk that is reminiscent for us. It's a pasuk that resonates for us, and we should be able to hear resonances of something else. Without looking at the next pasuk on the source sheet, what do you hear? Stony silence. I'm going to have to call a friend.
It's a really tough question, and I've hidden the next pasuk.
It's not a tough question. It's an easy question. Hugad li kol asher asit et chamotech acharei mot ishech, ותעזבי אביך ואמך, וארץ מולדתך, ותלכי אל עם asher lo yadat mol shilshom. It was told to me, hugad li, all that you did, how you left your father and mother and the land of your birth and came to a people you hadn't known. Giveaway.
We have a hand raised, Mandy.
Okay, I can't see the hand raised, so you have to identify the hand.
The hand is Vice Bart. Go on. I'm
Annabelle.
Go on.
It was me.
Annabelle, go on, please.
Lech lecha. So he's told to leave his land. I don't know what the pasuk, but leave his land, leave his father, leave his blah blah blah. To go.
10 points for Annabelle. Yes, I'm going to keep score from now on because otherwise, I'm not getting enough participation. Yes, this sounds very similar, right? This sounds like the text is pointing us to a pasuk that we're very familiar with. The third pasuk on your source sheet. Vayomer Hashem el Avram, lech lecha me'artzecha u'me'moladetecha u'me'beit avicha el ha'aretz asher areka. Hashem says to Avram, go forth, lech lecha, go to yourself from your land, from your birthplace, from your father's house to a land that I shall show you. There is a link and a parallel being drawn. We're being hinted to that Ruth's journey is somehow like Avram's journey. Avram had to leave his land and leave his father's house to start afresh. He was a pioneer for the Jewish people. Okay, so that's the Avram that we know, and he founded a whole people. Ruth somehow is being connected to this. Ruth is undergoing a similar process. So now we have to see why, what's going on. So I'm going to continue and read the second pasuk, the pasuk that follows that one immediately. L'goy gadol, ve'avarechacha, ve'agadla shmecha, ve'hayeh bracha. You're going to do this strange thing that I've required of you because I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. Bless, 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 right? There's a very not subtle explanation of why you're doing this. Is because Hashem promises at this point that Avraham is going to found a great nation. And your name is going to be a blessing. That becomes both the promise to Avram and his mission. His mission is what he's trying to do at every point after this is to fulfill this promise. Okay. Once we're aware that there is a link between Ruth from our story and the Avram who founded Judaism, that can cause us to open our eyes and read the text of Ruth differently, right? We can see more in it and we can look at it through that prism if we want to. If we were giving another shiur, we would look at it through another prism, but for today, that's going to be our prism. Okay. So I just said that Avram was promised blessing. Through you will be blessed the nations, and your name will be great, and you're going to become a great nation. In the book of Ruth, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, we have also got a reference to blessing. Now, I said the book of Ruth starts with incredible trauma. There is famine, there is death, there is bereavement, there is widowhood, and there's no hope. And yet, there's much more blessing than you would have imagined. If you ever went to Bnei Akiva, please raise your hand and unmute yourself. Okay, and unmute yourself.
My hand is raised. Can't work out how to do that.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to say to you, Hashem imachem. Excellent, excellent. How did you know the words?
You read Megillat Ruth.
Because you read Megillat Ruth. Well, somebody read Megillat Ruth way back in the history of Bnei Akiva. It's my favorite B'nai Akiva reference from a pasuk. Even before Boaz has met Ruth, this is where our first glimpse of Boaz, we see Boaz in the field. V'hinei Boaz ba mi Beit Lechem, Vayomer Lakotzrim. I can't see with the screen things on, so I have to go to my paper, very old-fashioned. Hashem emachem, vayomru lo yavorechecha Hashem. And they said back to him, God bless you. This is a funny pasuk. We're familiar with the exchange, but we're familiar with the exchange because it's from here. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's not normal, okay? In modern parlance, Boaz introduced a new normal, and we'll get back to that. But it's odd. Why is it odd what he does? What's wrong, if you like, with what he's doing? Do we know other people who go around saying, God be with you, Hashem imachem, and getting people to respond, Yivarechecha Hashem? I can't hear. Someone say something.
It's a bit Christian. You go to church, that's what they say. May God be with you, and they respond, and also with you.
Excellent, excellent. It's not our way. It's not our way. We didn't do this. Okay? But Boaz is doing this. What didn't we do? We didn't put Hashem's name into our greetings. We didn't use Hashem's name in this way because there's a small issue of the third of the 10 Commandments which says don't use Hashem's name all over the place. Okay? But this is Boaz's thing. This is what Boaz does. He does use Hashem's name. Okay, let's keep going. There's more examples. Ruth's mother-in-law, Ruth goes out gleaning the first day and she comes back with tons of food. And they've been terrified that there's no food. They're starving. They're petrified that they're going to starve. And Ruth comes back with lots of food. So, Vatomer lachamota, eifo lekatet hayom, v'na'asi, tihi makirech baruch. V'taged lachamota et asher asata imo, v'tomer shem ha'ish asher asiti imo hayom Boaz. So Naomi asks Ruth, where did you work today? And she tells him, they tell the whole story, said, blessed be he who took such generous notice of you. Blessing. We know that this is Naomi, who 5 minutes before was essentially suicidal. 5 minutes before, she didn't have any hope. Hope was completely gone. She was not going to survive. She couldn't take Orpah and Ruth with her because she had no future. And right away, as soon as Boaz shows Ruth kindness, Naomi turns around and she can say, Baruch, that there should be a blessing, that suddenly her life is looking completely different. And she continues, V'tomer Naomi lachanota Baruch hu laHashem asher lo azav chazdo et hachayim ve'et hametim v'tomer laNaomi karov lanu ha'ish migoalenu hu. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, blessed be he of the Lord. Okay, that sounds really weird. Baruch hu Hashem. Give him a proper bracha, who has not failed in his kindness. God hasn't failed me anymore. That's not what she said before, but it's completely changed. He has not failed me in his kindness to the living or the dead. So Naomi explained to her daughter-in-law, the man is related to us, and he is one of our redeeming kinsmen. There is hope for us yet. We may get to eat again. And finally, in chapter 3, we remember the story, right? Ruth turns up unexpectedly, uninvited, at the feet of Boaz when he's at the threshing floor, and he understands that she is indeed offering herself to him, and he says, we can figure this out. I'll work out a way to marry you. And he says, Barucha at laHashem biti, heitav chazdech acharon min harishon, blessed of the Lord, be blessed of the Lord, my daughter. Your latest deed of kindness is even greater than your first, in that you haven't turned to younger men, whether rich or poor. Poor or rich. It seems that from the middle of chapter 2 onwards, there is blessing repeatedly, again, in an exaggerated way. And every time there is blessing, Hashem's name is also mentioned. And also, looking back over it, kindness, Chesed, is also mentioned. In the book of Ruth, Chesed and blessing are very much connected. It is about the people appreciate the blessing once they've experienced the kindness. And without the experience of the kindness, they don't get to be blessed. Okay, so the Midrash in the beginning told us that this was a book about Chesed, about kindness. And Avraham was told that he would be blessed. And we've also established that this is a book about blessing. So now we just want to establish a link between Avraham and Chesed. What is the link between Avraham and Chesed? Too easy a question, I'm not going to answer. Someone is going to answer. What is the link between Avraham and Chesed? Linda.
Is it that Avraham gave the hospitality to strangers?
Yes, yes, yes. Keep going.
Well, he just had his circumcision. He was in a bad way, but he was still in a fit state to offer hospitality.
Yes, and when he thought he wasn't going to have any guests, he was very sad. So God conjures up some angels to be guests because he was very disappointed. Absolutely. Avraham is essentially defined by Chesed. Ashley, you were going to say something.
Well, exactly what I was going to say, that hospitality is very much his thing.
Very much his thing. Nicely put.
Yeah.
Who else says that Chesed is very much Avraham's thing? Okay, basically it's everyone, but in particular, it's the Kabbalists. I know nothing about Kabbalah or the Kabbalists. I'm not going to go there. I haven't got a clue, but I'm just going to leave it as the Kabbalists say Avram's thing is Chesed, kindness. Okay, so if Avram has a thing, do the other Avot also have a thing? What are the other Avots?
Yeah.
Main tropes? What are the other things that define the other Avot? Tricky question? Slightly trickier question?
Does the phrase Emes Yaakov come into it?
Right, you're on the right line, Shabbos Mincha.
I missed that. I missed what you said.
Emes Shel Yaakov.
Ah, Emes.
Yaakov.
Yeah, very good, very good. Oh, Alex, hello. And what do we say for Yitzchak?
Yiranen.
Avram Agil Yitzchak Yiranen Yaakov Van of Yanuchbo. Okay, that's interesting because that is totally not where I was going, but that's a quote from Mincha on Shabbat as well. We normally talk about Yitzchak as Gevura, as strength.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Kabbalistically, my trusty assistant says Yaakov is Tiferet. Okay. I'm not entirely sure if you're one of these things, if you're also a bit the other as well. I presume that you are. But I'm going to look now. I don't know if that's what I said I was going to do things. I'm going to look now at a very brief article by Rabbi Soloveitchik, who says Avraham was Chesed and Yitzchak was Kedusha, Gevura leading to Kedusha, and they're not the same. They had different traits, they had different styles, and it expressed itself in what they did and how they conducted themselves. So, Jem?
Yep.
Are we on? Can you tell me what number it is? Okay, Yitzchak personifies Kedusha. I'm not going to read it all, but there you go. After the Akedat Yitzchak, right, which was a very challenging time, I think we can all agree, Rav Soloveitchik extraordinarily claims that Avram parted with Yitzchak at that point. They didn't interact again afterwards. Okay? The life of Isaac was shrouded in mystery. We don't know anything about what he did. Right? He wasn't part of the outreach world that Avram was. The Balei Kabbalah explained that Avraham personified Chesed, loving kindness. And according to this view, what is Chesed? It's expansion, it's spreading out, it's outreach, and it's drawing people in. Okay, it's hit pashtut, expansion, taking in many people. He wanted people, it's there. He wanted people in his tent. And Isaac did exactly the opposite. He personified Gvura, which implies Tzimtzum, making himself smaller, self-contraction or self-limitation, or Prishut. And Prishut, separating yourself, is Kedusha. And when we've talked previously about holy things, it's about saying this is okay for me and this is not okay for me. Just like we had in the very first Midrash, that we should have things which are Tuma and Tahor. We should distinguish between the holy and the not holy, the pure and the not pure. That is what Kedusha is. So Isaac says in the middle of your screen, whatever is Kadosh, is holy, is covered up. It's secret. It's a mystery and it's not out there. And Avram was the opposite of that. Avram was out there. Avram was trying and encouraging people to get close to him. Okay, if that's true, we often say too much of a good thing is a little bit dangerous. Too much Avram can be a bit, I don't mean Avram, my brother-in-law, sorry Avram, it's a bit confusing. Too much of my brother-in-law Avram is a perfect and fantastic and wonderful and awesome thing, but too much of Avram's Chesed can be a bad thing, can be a dangerous thing. Can we think of one example where too much Chesed was a dangerous thing for Avram? I'm actually going to wait. I'm going to do that really teachery thing and just wait till someone gives me a proper answer. One example where we have to limit Avram's Chesed. Lee Zucker.
Where he said that Sarah was his...
Oh, someone else is speaking.
Go on, Jackie, you started there.
He said that Sarah was his sister, not his wife.
Okay, well that was just weird. Was that Chesed? Maybe he was trying to protect her. Maybe that was Chesed and that was trying to protect her, but it wasn't clever. No. Okay, somewhere else.
Hagar and Ishmael.
Hagar and Ishmael. What happens with Hagar and Ishmael?
Avraham doesn't want to send them away.
Avraham doesn't want to send them away. He's got an open home. He's open to everyone. He wants them there. He wants them with him. He's not prepared to do anything to drive people out because he's the open tent guy. And so what makes him send them out?
His wife.
His wife. Okay? His wife, Sarah, is the foil to his chesed. Not that she's not kind, but she has the ability to temper the chesed. Right? Because unbridled chesed is quite a dangerous thing. You might you might spread out so far that you fall apart, kind of thing. So Avraham is very strong on his chesed, but sometimes he has Sarah to bring him back, to rein him in, to temper his chesed. And that's also known as kedusha. She has the ability to close herself off and say, this is not going to help us to be better, so we're going to close ourselves off in this way. Okay, very good. According to Rav Soloveitchik, Yitzchak has kedusha in spades, if you like Sarah does. What's the difficulty of being too strong on your kedusha element? What happens if you've got too much holiness, too much of an ability to separate yourself?
You lose track with real life?
You might lose track. You might end up in your own four walls and not see anyone and not do anything, and you might be out of touch. Okay, so what's the foil to Yitzchak's excesses of kedusha? Gonna have to pick on someone if you don't volunteer. Ruth Warrens, I'm looking at you. No, I'm not looking at you. Okay, fine.
Ruth does want to know if how many people are called Ruth in this shiur.
I I know of at least two. It's not a trick question.
Rivka.
Rivka! Thank you, Andrea. That was beautiful. In what way is Rivka a foil to Yitzchak?
Well, the way she tricked him with the birthright.
Okay, so she goes all out for, no, I'm going to make things happen. Right? The danger of Yitzchak is nothing is ever going to happen with him. He's just going to sit in his four walls and never go out. So Rivka does that. I would also say Rivka is associated with Chesed. Why would I say that? Can we think of...
Oh, no. She get fed the camels first.
She fed the camels first. I think that was Haley. Thank you very much, Haley. Right? We know Rivka. We're introduced to Rivka because she's involved in this tremendous act of Chesed. That was the test that Eliezer sent for her. Absolutely. So in Chumash, for each couple, there's a Chesed who's higher and a Kedusha who's higher, and they kind of balance each other out. Okay? Chesed and Kedusha in this model are kind of not exactly opposites, but kind of on a continuum. You're not high in Kedusha if you're high in Chesed, because Chesed is all about going out there, and Kedusha is all about staying in and not spreading out and being separate from other people. So that's how the couples are in the Chumash. And now we skip forward again to Ruth. And how does it work in the book of Ruth? What do you know of the book of Ruth? What have we already seen? Who is Chesed in the book of Ruth?
Boaz.
Boaz. And?
Ruth.
And Ruth. Thank you. Thank you so much. Boaz and Ruth. They're both explicitly acknowledged for their chesed. Boaz is so kind to her because he says, I've heard of the great kindness that you've done. The Midrash says the whole point of the book of Ruth is the chesed. Naomi recognizes Boaz's chesed. Everybody recognizes at the end the great kindness that Hashem has done, and it comes from this couple of Ruth and Boaz. So, in this case, we've got a couple where chesed is the dominant thing for both of them. How does that work? Why would we have that? Is that not going to be very unbalanced? Okay, so he said that our story begins in a state of trauma. What is the very first line of the book? Oh, my assistant to the left is ready to say. Come on, you can answer. Vayhi b'mei shvot hashoftim vayhi ra'av ba'aretz. It was in the days that the judges judged, and there was a famine in the land. What does it mean it was in the days when the judges judged? Chavi.
In the book of Shoftim is when it takes place.
Yes, this story is set during the book of Shoftim. Interesting fact that I think I may have mentioned in previous Shiurim. Who wrote the book of Shoftim? Bracha, say it louder. Shmuel wrote the book of Shoftim. Who wrote the book of Ruth? Shmuel. Say it louder. Shmuel. Can you hear? She said Shmuel. Okay, so the books of Ruth and Shoftim have the same author. They're both written by Shmuel, in which case we have a question back to what we said before. Why isn't Ruth part of the book of Shoftim? Why didn't Shmuel include it in the book of Shoftim? It's a good story. Okay, oh, thank you. The book of Shoftim doesn't have these nice, sweet, good, happy ending stories so much. They have their own style, and it's different from the book of Ruth. And the book of Ruth just wouldn't fit there, not least because we don't have a judge in the story. But also the book of Ruth is, the book of Shoftim has its own difficulties. Can we have a look at the cycle, please? Have you gone off the thing? Oh, no, it's there. Okay, can everyone see, does everyone know what I mean when I talk about the cycle of the Shoftim? No. I can't tell if you know that, if this is old news for you or new news for you. Old news? New news? Okay. New news. Okay. Essentially, the book of Shoftim deals with many judges. Many judges. Some of them get like 3 lines, and some of them get a few chapters. But essentially, each story can be reduced to this. It starts off with Israel doing what they're supposed to do in the land of Israel, serving God and, being okay. Then they forget themselves, they sin, they started worshipping idolatry. And as a result, Hashem sends a punishment of some sort, like famine, war, something bad happens. When things are bad, Israel cries out to Hashem. In response to the crying out, Hashem sends a judge who tells them how to behave. Israel is saved from the famine or the war or whatever misery it is, and all is quiet for 40 years and people are okay for 40 years. Okay, that's the cycle. It wasn't going well. In the time of the Shoftim, it was not Israel at its finest. Israel keeps falling into idolatry and it keeps getting punished. What was the bracha that we had in the beginning for Avraham? We read it already, the second pasuk from Lech Lecha.
Go and you'll be blessed.
I will make of you a great nation and I will bless you. Okay? Is that what's happening during the time of the Shoftim?
No.
No. During the time of the Shoftim, we have a failure of Avram's blessing to materialize. Living in the land of Israel was supposed to be exactly the fulfillment of the bracha, and instead it ends up being a complete fail, basically. So much so that if we look at the end chapter of Shoftim, saw something or another. Jem? Yes, there. The end, in Judges, what does it say?
Curse.
Curse, right? The word curse appears more times apparently in Shoftim than other books. If we go down to the last chapter, chapter 21, we can't give them any of his daughters of wives because since the Israelites have taken an oath, cursed be anyone who gives a wife to Binyamin, right? Israel is so messed up that it has literally cursed one of its own tribes that no one will marry them. How did it happen that in the time of the Shoftim, we ended up being cursed? We're living in the land of Israel, right? That was half of the bracha. We've become an actual nation. That was half of the bracha. So how come we're cursed? How come it ends up with famine and war and curse? During the book of Shoftim, again and again, there's a lack of chesed. Again and again, people deal with each other in an unkind and uncharitable and ungenerous way. Shmuel wrote the book of Shoftim, and he gives us Ruth that's set at the same time, but is a completely different story. The story of Ruth is indeed a story of chesed squared, if you like. And it's a chance, it's a story that is told as a foil to the book of Shoftim. Shoftim is the story of lack of kindness, cursing, and lack of bracha. So when we look at Ruth, we see kindness and bracha, but we also see something else. When Avraham was doing his chesed, Jem, can you just scroll down a little bit? When Avraham was doing his chesed, excellent, he had a mission, right? Avraham's mission was to salvage humanity and return it to Hashem, or even to bring it to Hashem for the first time. And his strategy was to reach people through acts of kindness. And essentially, that's what we need to bear in mind when we're learning the stories of Avraham all the time. His point is he's trying to save Hashem, to save humanity and bring it back to Hashem. That was the mission. The blessing was going to be, you'll be a nation and you'll be blessed. But his mission was to save humanity and bring it all together to Hashem. Okay, that seems a very laudable mission, but it seems quite a big deal, quite hard. In what way did Avraham do his acts of kindness? So he helped the people who needed help, right? He spoke up for the people of Sodom who were struggling. He held Hashem to account for his, to be a God of justice. That was one form. If you look down the bottom there, there's a form of chesed fulfilled through responding to those in pain or suffering. Okay, so that's one form of chesed that he did, that people need our assistance. But then there's another paradigm for chesed. And this is drawing people back to Hashem from idol worship. And this was Avram's speciality. His chesed was a concrete expression of love of Hashem, and by getting people to know Hashem, to bring humanity in. Avram does chesed on two levels. It's sorting things out for people who have a problem, and it's bringing Hashem into the world and into people's lives. So I promised that we would go back to the beginning of Ruth. So if we look at the next pasuk, the next text, the most famous lines in the book of Ruth, without question, are, "Whither thou goest, I shall go," etc., right? So if we read it just very briefly in the Hebrew, which I can't read on the screen. I can move myself so I can read it on the screen. ותאמר רות, אל תבכי בי לעוזבך, לשוב מאחרייך, כי את אשר תלכי, אל אשר תלכי אלך, ובאשר תליני אלין, עמך עמי ואלוהיך אלוהי. Don't push me to leave you, to turn back and not follow you. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. This is the most powerful speech that Ruth makes, and it turns everything, because Naomi replies by saying, well, I've got nothing to say to that. And it's not clear if she agrees, but she says, I won't try and stop you anymore. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't try and stop her anymore. And after that, Ruth accompanies her back to Bethlehem. But this is also seen as Ruth accepting on herself the fate of the Jewish people, her becoming a Jew. This is her conversion. So there's a Gemara in Yevamot, yes, okay, which takes this speech and reconstruct it in a way to demonstrate this. So you have to kind of work with me on this one. Why does Ruth start with, wherever you go, I will go? Because Naomi has told her, well, if you want to be Jewish, you have to realize that on Shabbat, you can't go more than 2,000 paces beyond the city walls. So Ruth says, okay, if I can't walk there, I won't go there. Or rather, wherever you go, I will go. If there's a walking limit, fine, I'll abide by the walking limit. Naomi continues, we're not allowed to be alone with a man. And she says, well, wherever you can sleep, I'll sleep with you. Okay, keep going to the next one. It's the same. The conversation continues. Naomi says that we've got 613 mitzvot. That's what the Jewish people have. And Ruth says, your people are my people. And the final big idea, we're not allowed to worship other gods. And she says, that's fine. Your God is my God. We won't bother with the next one, but it continues with more technicalities. This is seen as no less than Ruth's conversion.
Easy conversion.
It is. That you think that's an easier conversion than
easy conversion?
Oh no! It involved moving countries, living with a family that wasn't hers, abandoning her people and the language that they spoke and their ways. It was a pretty big deal. So then, hang on a second. How do I grow them? Okay. Okay. So Ruth is the heroine of our story, but she also performs her own conversion. There were two elements to Avram's chesed. He would help the people in need, and Ruth does that, and he would help them to find God. And Ruth does that to herself. She is like an Uber Avram, right? Not only is she doing what he did, but she's applying it to herself first of all. Okay, and it's not, I'm not making it up, right? The text is hinting to us that this is what's going on. The text is hinting to us that this is a founding father kind of story, just like Lech Lecha is a founding father kind of a story. So what I want to claim is that Ruth is a story about Chesed, but it's a story about Chesed in the time of the Shoftim, in the time when Israel was suffering repeated disasters and traumas. And the root of those disasters and traumas was essentially not recognizing God and also not showing kindness to each other. And the story of Ruth is an attempt to bring us back to our roots with Avraham, where he, number one, recognized God, number two, recognized God by helping other people to recognize God, and also helping people in need. And number three, he's rewarded with blessing. So Shmuel, I think, is saying in the book of Ruth, it's time for us to become that blessed people. It's time to become that blessed people who recognizes Hashem in what they do, and recognizes that the practical way of recognizing Hashem in this world is through acts of kindness. That's how it works. That's our mechanism. Our kindness brings people in, but also demonstrates Hashem. If we look at the pasuk that's on your screen, Vayomer brucha ad laHashem biti, hetav chazdecha acharon min harishon. He says, blessed are you to Hashem. Right, the whole book of Shoftim, we're not having all this blessing, we're not having all this Hashem. My daughter, your kindness to me is your latest kindness is even greater than your original kindness. Right? We've got an overload of blessing. For the first time in our history, we have a couple which is basically chesed plus chesed, and every time they interact with each other, the one is blessing the other more again and again. This is the antidote. This is the reset to a time of Shoftim that was miserable, godless, lacking in kindness, and not blessed. And Shmuel is writing a very short book to bring Hashem into the world, and with it the blessing, Avram's blessing and the fulfillment of Avram's mission to bring kindness in. What I said, I can't scroll down. Can you scroll down to the last one, Jen? When I asked the question, why do we have, halfway through there. Go down a bit. Wait, stop. There. Okay. When I asked the question, why do we suddenly have a couple, which is Chesed and Chesed, when we know that the model is Chesed and Kedusha? It's because these were desperate times, and sometimes desperate times called for desperate measures. And the idea that Boaz's solution is sometimes the solution for desperate times is actually enshrined in this Mishnah at the end of Brachot. They decreed, they made a new law. Okay, they also decreed that a person should greet his fellow in God's name. They made a new law that you could use God's name when you're greeting someone, whereas before we would have said that's not okay. Because as it says in the book of Ruth, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, Hashem imachem, and they answered him, Yevarechecha Hashem. In desperate times, that's what this mission is saying, we need to resort to desperate measures. So I think that helps us to understand what's going on in the book of Ruth. In the book of Ruth, we are indeed living through desperate times. It's the times of Shoftim. We're living through times where people are cursing each other instead of helping each other. There's no sense of blessing from living in the land, and they forget Hashem every 40 years. So Boaz and Ruth work to bring Hashem in and treat everybody they meet with Chesed, and through that fulfilling Avram's mission and bringing blessing to the land. And that, I hope, answers that question. Jen, do you want to turn it off? Share? Cool. Any questions? Gloria, if you're asking a question, I can't hear you. Okay, I can hear you now. Did you want to ask a question?
Okay. Something that's always puzzled me. Why did Ruth not convert in her first marriage?
I know. You are not alone in asking that question. So there are those that say she did. The Ibn Ezra says it's unthinkable that she didn't already convert.
So
it's unthinkable. So
why would she say your people should be my people?
Yeah. So it sounds like either she had converted already, but this was a reconfirmation. Orpah has gone away. Right? Ruth and Orpah were in the same boat originally, and they must have, according to this view, done some conversion in order to marry the guys Machlon and Chilion in the first place. But Orpah has left. So Orpah has, if you can imagine, undone her conversion. She's unconverted. And Orpah has unconverted, and Ruth has then reconverted. She's reestablished that that's what she thinks. But you're right, that's a big question. And there are those that say it is completely unthinkable that that Ruth couldn't have converted in the first place, didn't convert in the first place.
Yeah, because wouldn't Naomi have, why would she accept it this time and not had something behind that?
It's a fair question, and there are those that exactly think as you do. That's fair.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mandy, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if Ruth and Boaz is like Chesed squared,
yes.
Why didn't they manage to break the circle of prophecy you talked about? Because Israel is still not being great, and Mashiach still isn't here, even though David ben Yishai is coming, but we're still waiting.
They did their bit. They made the David. They got us towards Melech David. Maybe indeed it's the story of one family, and we needed it to spread more. We need to read it more on Shavuot and spread the ideas around. It wasn't a broad movement necessarily. Although maybe what Boaz said was catching. Yes, who said that?
Andrea.
Jackie.
Yeah.
Do you not think, as David came out of Ruth, that we today are making convertees too hard? We should accept them a little bit more easily.
Bracha says that's not my purview. That's true. I think the halacha has always been clear. Once you've converted, you're a Jew l'chol davar, and I think there's no excuse for persecuting the Gerim. That's inexcusable. That's unacceptable. But I wouldn't want to get involved in how hard or otherwise we should make it. Sorry, Jackie, going to dodge that one.
Conversion. In the times of Ruth, there was a more real consequence to not keeping the laws after you have accepted them.
Just as real, it was less tangible. Okay. Andrea, did you want to say something?
I've often wondered how it's justified / explained how it was okay for Ruth to sleep at Boaz's feet overnight.
Yeah. So not going to go there, but no, excellent question, right? It's an extraordinary case, an extraordinary story. I wonder if a little bit that's what happens if you have chesed and you don't have a kedusha there as well, right? Boaz in the end says, this is inappropriate, we're not going to do this, right? It's kedusha, it's kedusha that says this is an inappropriate thing. But you're right, it is a strikingly inappropriate scene, and it is very awkward to teach it sometimes. But you're right, it's fair. But sometimes the extraordinary or the inappropriate happens in our texts, and interestingly, we don't gloss over it. So yes, it does feel a bit awkward.
Mandy,
yes,
like David having the young, I can't remember her name.
Exactly, right.
To warm him up in the bed.
Also inappropriate. We could give a shiur on inappropriate passages from Tanakh, but that's not for tonight, and that's certainly not legally about my father. So no, I'm going to dodge that one too. But yes, you're right. We have inappropriate stories sometimes. Was it Eleanor? Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I kind of have a bit of an issue when you were saying about like with Avraham and Sarah and Rivka and Yitzchak, but the Kedusha part of it, in a way you could say wasn't the right part of it. So, like, for example, was it right for Avraham to send away Hagar and Ishmael? Was Sarah right to temper what he wanted to do on that occasion?
Okay, so Hashem
right
says
about the birthright.
Hashem says, listen to Sarah, listen to her voice. That seems to be an endorsement. It's not pleasant and it's not easy for us to listen to, but it does seem to be an endorsement. So sometimes that saying no thing is necessary, I guess. That's the message. Don't know. Any other questions? Hands up. I can only see some of the people. Oh, hello. Natalie. Didn't know you were there. Nicole, I can see your forehead. Okay. Hi. All right. Questions? Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Martin. Yes.
Well, I thought Abi Melech was a judge, and
that is one opinion, but he's not listed. It doesn't say he was a judge in our book. So he could have been. We know at least he was a big man. We know at least that he was a gavir. He was a wealthy man in his generation. His name at least lends itself to something grand, but it's not universally thought of that he was himself a judge. And he's certainly not acting as a judge in this case, because the judge's role was to bring people back, and he doesn't bring people back. So if he's a judge, he's a failed judge.
Well, I thought that's why he died, because instead of helping people, he just left.
Right. He was in a position of wealth to help people. He was a landowner, and he had food and he had money. So he was in a position of wealth, so he could have helped people. And he doesn't. He fails. So yes, he dies. Lack of chesed, right? The book starts with a complete lack of chesed on his part, and he's severely punished for it. Okay. I'm going to wrap up, if that's okay. I'm going to say thank you very much for participating. It's been very lovely to see you all. I wish you all Chag Sameach.
Have a lovely day.
Thank
you, Mandy.
Thank
you, Mandy. Chag Sameach.
Thank you, Shiur, for staying awake. Thank you, Shiur, for staying awake.
Mandy.
Chag Sameach. Bye-bye.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you very much.
Chag Sameach. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abigail, for staying awake.
Gail also stayed awake.
Sometimes there's
And she just got her to sleep now.
Wow.
Avraham.
Happy birthday, Margaret.
Happy birthday, Margaret. We're so excited for you. We can't wait until we see you again in London.
Wishing you the best day ever.
Stay happy and healthy.
Thank you very much. Very nice.
Thank you, Mandy.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hayu Marichin.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Chaim Arukim.
Jem, is there someone else in here?
Happy birthday, Margot. And I don't get to see you as much as my mom and dad, but I love it when I happen to see you lately.
Jem, who's talking?
Again, really soon. Can't wait. Happy birthday.
That one.
Okay.
Mandy and Karen, Arichut Yamim.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Yoda. I appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Oh, Ilan was there. Hello.
Hello, Abraham.
Hello. Hi. How you doing?
See you.
And you.
We should do this more often.
You haven't changed.
He certainly hasn't grown any hair in lockdown. Whatever.
Hi, Mandy, from Johnny and Sandra.
Hi, Johnny and Sandra. It was lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. It was easier than you driving all the way from Loughton.
Absolutely. Lots of love
Absolutely.
from all of us. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shella.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Chag Sameach.
Bye. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Cool.
Mandy and Karen, we should find Marukim.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Mandy, Chag Sameach, and Shalom Aleichem.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Barry.
Chag Sameach.
And Chag Sameach to you too.
Bye, Dad.
Oh, that was very cute, Lee. Very cute. Joshi, how are you? You're on mute. I can't hear you. How are you? I couldn't hear that. I can hear someone crying.
Yes, we are okay, thank you.
Ah, thank God.
But I didn't see my grandchildren for a few months.
Oh.
That's the difficult.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's very hard.
I'm worried.
It's very hard. How are they doing?
Interested in me.
I don't know.
You
they're
don't
okay.
know?
They're okay.
Thank you.
Yes, they're okay. Thanks God, you know, the baby developed. It's nice. He missed all his appointment in the hospital.
Okay.
Mandy.
We're allowed to go out.
Who's
Mandy? Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Just to say thank you very, very much, and to wish you and Karen Chaim Aruchim.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate
All right.
it.
And Chag Sameach when we get there.
And Chag Sameach for everybody. Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Cool. So if you're not on video, if you're not on camera, I can sometimes hear voices, which makes me feel a little bit insane. But never mind. Natalie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, good. How's your NHS?
Yeah, it's busy.
Busy. Okay.
How are you?
Yeah. Thank God. Thank God.
Hi, Karen. Hello, Jeremy.
And Natalie.
Hi, Avraham. Mandy, Karen, when's the art site?
Tonight.
Tonight. Okay.
Tonight. Yeah.
Oh, wish you a very long life.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So, Stranger is 5 years.
God.
Yeah. So, don't know about that one.
That's a very long time.
The family from all over the world. We meant to fly to London and celebrate.
Okay, Jem, do you want to mute that one? Okay, cool. Yes, it did occur to me while thinking about couples that were balancing each other, that I think it would be fair to say that Mummy and Daddy were not identical on on pretty much any measure, but they did balance each other really well.
When?
Yes.
I'm not sure it was a Chesed Kedusha split exactly.
No. No.
I
can think of other ways to describe it.
No, but you had an extroverted, introverted thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much opposite on every other measure.
Yeah, in a very complimentary way.
Indeed. Amen.
Amen. All right.
I was having to do bathing and bedding and stuff at the same time, but I was listening to it because it was much more interesting and meaningful than what I was listening to, or officially supposed to be listening to. But I really liked the contrast of the being and the doing that you were making.
Yeah,
that was really. I found that really helpful. Thank you.
So I find actually that I a little bit get stuck at the beginning of the Rav Soloveitchik thing where he says Yitzchak is so traumatized that he's essentially disabled after the Akedah, and Avraham has nothing to do with him. That's quite awful, right? And Avraham lives for many years after the Akedah, but we don't hear of them interacting anymore. He's not part of Yaakov's life. Oh, that's
I thought he went to yeshiva.
Oh.
Didn't he go to yeshiva?
I thought it was Yaakov went to yeshiva.
Oh, was it? Oh, Yitzchak didn't go.
I don't know. Okay, I don't recognize me in that picture, but I know that it is me.
Behind Jeremy?
Yeah.
Jeremy.
So it's interesting. It's a picture of Bracha as a baby looking very similar to Abigail.
It's the hair.
Yeah, it is the hair. You're right. Was Grandma in her blonde phase?
Oh, yeah. Good photo. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we'd have more pictures. Okay, folks.
Epic background, Jeremy.
Hilarious.
Yeah, the lightning is guaranteed to send you into a
right, epileptic state,
if that's your disposition. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent. We can generate all sorts of things in our home.
Yeah.
All right.
And as long as Jeremy's having fun. Clearly. That's the main thing.
Oh, Shira's live. Shira's important. Hello.
She's a person.
That's so weird, Jeremy.
You were there the whole way through, but now you're on mute.
King Kong.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go because it's like really late here. I don't know what time it is where you are, Shira. We're very tired.
Go to bed. Thank you very much for being here.
Can't hear you, Shira.
Wish you long life,
The time
Karen.
is
Sleep
baby
well.
just fell asleep.
The time is baby just fell asleep.
Oh.
Fair enough.
All right, I wish everybody a good Yontif.
All right, everybody.
Karen and Mandy, I wish you long life.
Thank you very much. Bye, Yvonne and Bernard, whose cameras are still on. Bye, good night.
Yeah, we're here.
Haley and Martin.
Yeah, Josie's here as well.
And Josie as well. Yes, hi. Nice to see you. Very good. Okay, we're going to unplug.
Yeah, I can hit end.